How's it going, everybody? Justin here for my latest video. Tonight's topic, a little different. It's not horror related. Did he just say, yeah, that's right, it's not horror related. So what is it on? Well, it is on Western classics, preferably Western films. So I will be discussing Western films tonight. Now, I know what you're thinking. How old are you again? Do I want to watch this? This sounds really boring. Well, I'm under 40, so who says a guy under 40 can't appreciate a good classic Western? It's not in the rule book. What rule book? Exactly. Just wanted to do something different for a change. Take a little step back from horror, if you will. Also, over the last few years, I've watched a lot more Westerns, and yeah, so I'm gonna give you my 2 cents on it. That's why we're here tonight. So, without further ado, discussing Western classics. Now, some of these films you've probably heard of, some of these films you probably haven't. Either way, I will shine a light on them. First and foremost, I will tell you the name of the film, I will tell you what it's about, and then I'll tell you whether or not I liked it. I like most Westerns. In order for me to not like it, there's got to be some weird plot going on. And there is one in here I didn't particularly care for that I was on the fence about. So let's get at it, shall we? First up, the Dollar Trilogy with Clint Eastwood, the classic spaghetti westerns. The thing that really put Clint Eastwood on the map. Assuming you don't count Rawhide, where he started. And also the movie Tarantula, where he was a lab hand. What? I know my Clint Eastwood. The Dollar Trilogy. A Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more, and of course the good, the bad, and the ugly. I have gone on record to say this many times. Heck, it's on the book's description on its Amazon page. But the Dollar Trilogy inspired me to write A Bloody, Bloody Mess in the Wild, Wild West. Because I was watching it with somebody, and yeah, I was watching it, and for whatever reason, it popped into my head. The character's really gritty, coming at Clint Eastwood, and I jumped off the couch, ran to my room, took down a piece of paper, and wrote down chapters and the title, Bloody Bloody Mess in the Wild Wild West. So let's talk about the Dollar Trilogy. For a few dollars, a fistful of dollars, right? Clint Eastwood is pretty much known as the man with no name in all three films. He plays a different character in all three films, and none of them really have names. He's always given a name, but he himself doesn't specifically have a name. It's just what they call him. A Fistful of Dollars, of course, he goes into town looking to, just looking for a job, really. Has to stop this Mexican guy, right? In typical Clint Eastwood fashion, he's a badass, right? He goes into town. I'm kind of winging it right now because I don't have the thing in front of me. Because I do confuse 1 and 2. I confuse A Fistful of Dollars with For a Few Dollars More because they have the same characters pretty much. So before I start winging this, let me get the basis here. Okay. I do know the basis, but All right. An unnamed stranger arrives at the little frontier of San Miguel. Silviento, the town's innkeeper, tells the stranger about a feud between the smuggling families vying to gain control of the town. The Rojo brothers, Don Miguel, Esteban, and Ramon, and the family and the town sheriff, John Baxter. Okay. So basically, It's this Spanish family against the sheriff and his family. The sheriff, not really all that big and bad in this. Kind of a pushover, kind of a bribing type, right? And then Ramon is the main villain, and then his two brothers. And they clash. Clint Eastwood comes into town and he sees this. And Clint Eastwood's like, you know what? I kind of want to get in on this. So what he does is he plays them against each other. He goes to the sheriff and says, oh, I can get rid of those guys for you. For some money. And then he goes to the brothers and goes, I can get rid of those guys. Right? Eventually, he's caught. He's found out. And the brothers kind of beat him up for a little bit. Pistol whip him. But in typical Clint Eastwood fashion, he bounces back and does what he does. I believe this the one where yes, this is the one where he challenges Ramon to a duel. And it's not much of a duel. You know, Clint Eastwood is far away, and Ramon's got this rifle, and he takes it and he fires it at him. Clint Eastwood hits the ground. He's dead. But he's not dead. He gets back up. And he walks back, and he's talking crap to Ramon. Gets shot again. Gets back up. He's like, I can't miss him. I'm not missing him. There's no way. Shoots him. The closer he gets, he's like point blank range. Shoots him almost at point blank range. He gets up again. By this time, he's out of bullets. Clint Eastwood gets up, reveals a steel plate under his poncho. Hence why he's able to take all these shots. And then, of course, he himself frees his buddy and kills Ramon, right? And the brothers. Total badass felon. Very very diabolical, very manipulative of Clint Eastwood. So definitely a favorite of mine. Also, I believe this is the one where he asks about Ramon's wife. And my only knock on this is the fact that he kind of just disregards women. At least in this film, with a little bit. It's a little bit of a turnoff for me in that film. But other than that, awesome film. For a few dollars more, he's known as who was he known as in the first film? Yeah. It's what he's known as. He doesn't specifically have a name, so remember. And I just went right past it because I'm an idiot. I should have this all ready to go. I kind of do. It's in front of me. Okay, he's known as Joe in the first one. Some people were just refer to him as Joe. He's, oh, I didn't get your name. I didn't give one. You know, one of those type of things. So for a few dollars more, he's known as Manco. The man with no name. Want to hear something crazy? It took $600,000 to make for a few dollars more. It made $25.5 million in the box office. All right. The man that many call Manco is a bounty hunter, a profession shared by a former Army officer, Colonel Douglas Mortimer, played by another great Western actor whose name is escaping me. Let's see if I can remember it without looking. I cannot. Lee Van Cleef. I knew it was Lee. He's in a lot of these films too. So this one is a little weird, if I'm being honest. So in this one, the guy that played Ramon in the first one, again, they're all completely different characters, but he plays. Who is he playing this one? He plays El Indio. And basically, they have to stop him. Clint Eastwood comes into town. He wants to kill El Indio, and Lee Van Cleef wants to. So Lee Van Cleef plays it He's flirting with danger, right? He goes up to the guy to get his light for a cigarette, takes it out of one of the guy's hands, right out of his mouth, and he's like, "What are you, the Death Wish man?" You know. Basically, when they're both trying to shoot at El Indio, they kind of see each other, looking back. He sees him through one window. He sees him looking through out of his window. So they decide to meet up. Clint Eastwood and Lee Van Cleef's characters, and Manco and Mortimer, and Mortimer suggests, "Hey, why don't we do this together?" And of course, Clint Eastwood goes, "Well, why would I do that?" You know, and you know, he agrees. And Clint Eastwood's kind of the scouting type. He's the one that like goes out there while Mortimer watches from afar. They try to get a strategy, and all the while, El Indio he has these flashbacks. He's got this pocket watch, and there's this beautiful woman in the pocket watch, and he has these flashbacks to this beautiful woman that's in the pocket watch, and he sees her, and she's making love to this man on the bed, and the guy sees El Indio, and the guy gets shot and killed, and then El Indio forces himself upon the woman and proceeds to rape her, but not before she kills herself because she'd rather die than have to, go through any more with this man. Call me crazy, but I've seen this film several times, and this part always kind of goes a little bit over my head. Like I forget it, not because it's a rape scene, but because it's like the way that like the way that they show it. Like, why would he think back at that? Because you think that the pocket watch is more important to him, and basically he's haunted by what he did to the girl. But it's never really said. It's just the flashbacks. So my one irk about this film, my peeve, is that you kind of have to go looking and searching on Google to really get a definitive explanation. At least I did, because it's not clear cut. So he's got this weird thing, this weird fascination with the pocket watch of the girl whom he raped however long ago, right? And at the end of the film, of course, it's the three of them. Clint Eastwood ends up, of course, killing El Indio, but not before he sees a pocket watch that Mortimer has. That's almost identical to the one that the girl has. Come to find out, that was his daughter who was killed. And Mortimer lets him keep the money all for himself and walks along. But not before Clint Eastwood counts all the bodies and realizes he's missing one. Turns around, puts the last guy away, and then the other guy rides out. It's a good film, just as good as for a Fistful of Dollars. My only take, again, like I said to you, the whole like flashback to the rape scene with El Indio and the girl. I kind of wonder, like, what's the reason that it's in there? Is that what's supposed to make him crazy? Like, I don't know. Other than that, though, it's a great film. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I don't even have to. Well, maybe I will look at it just for the sake of. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is the third of the Dollars trilogy films. Clint Eastwood, of course, is known as Blondie in this. And the other two characters, of course, are Lee Van Cleef, who is who is he in this? He is Angel Eyes. And then, of course, we have Eli Wallach, who makes his second appearance. Eli Wallach's in the first one, although you wouldn't know it. He plays Tuco. So we got Clint Eastwood, Blondie, The Good, Lee Van Cleef, Angel Eyes, The Bad, and Eli Wallach as Tuco, The Ugly. And what he does, again, in every film, Clint Eastwood allows himself to either get captured or to allow the villain to like get the upper hand on him, but just for a little bit. because that gives him opportunity to like scout and see what he's working at, if you will. So basically, mercenary Angel Eyes, Lee Van Cleef, interrogates former Confederate soldiers, and Stevens gives the name. He, excuse me, he Angel Eyes interrogates a former Confederate soldier named Stevens for the alias of Jackson, a soldier who stole a catch of Confederate gold. Stevens gives the name Bill Carson and offers Angel Eyes a bribe. Angel Eyes kills Stevens regardless, and intrigued about the gold, kills his own employer. Elsewhere, Mexican bandit Tuco is fleeing from bounty hunters and is eventually captured by an unnamed drifter he nicknames Blondie, Clint Eastwood. Blondie delivers Tuco to a sheriff and collects his $2,000 bounty. As Tuco is about to be hanged, Blondie severs the noose by shooting it and sets him free. The two escape and split the bounty. They repeat the process in another town. Blondie grows weary of Tuco's complaints, keeps all the money, and leaves Tuco stranded in the desert. So this one's funny because later in the film, Tuco gets the upper hand on Clint Eastwood, Blondie, but you can see why, because he's kind of just they're both using each other, but Clint Eastwood's using him more than he's using him, right? So it's just kind of, so basically, in a nutshell, they both find out about the money. So of course, this film's longer than the other two. This film's 3 hours long. And this film is 3 hours long, and it kind of drags out a bit. But it's good, right? So basically, in a nutshell, they're all after the Confederate gold that's supposedly in the grave for Bill Carson. They have a showdown, but then when they all get to the grave, oh, there's no name here. There's no name on this either, because he had to write it down. He said there's no name on it. That's where the gold would be, on an unmarked grave. So, of course, Clint Eastwood, of course, prevails in the end, and yeah, Tuco digs up the grave and finds several large bags of gold. However, Blondie orders him at the gunpoint into a hangman's noose beneath a tree, with his hands bound. So basically, he leaves him there. I believe Lee Van Cleef's character Angel Eyes is killed. So Clint Eastwood gets the money, puts it on the horse, and he rides away. And Tuco's cursing him all the way to the end of the film, as he disappears over the hills. Absolute classic film. Most of the time, I would imagine it's probably everyone's favorite out of the three films, because it's iconic, because you can remember the title. I always forget the name of the first movie, A Fistful of Dollars. But why doesn't the third one have dollar in it? I always wonder that. So yeah, my take on the Dollar Trilogy, it inspired me to write my second book, so clearly it has some meaning to me. 3 classic spaghetti westerns, you can't go wrong. Sergio Leone, of course, the classic director for that. And of course, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is also where we get the song Ecstasy of Gold, which you know from the, oh God. It's in a beer commercial now. I'm totally blanking on the name of the beer. I don't drink, so that's probably why I don't remember. All right. Now we go to another Clint Eastwood film. Don't worry, not all these films are Clint Eastwood. I believe this is the last one. High Plains Drifter. I'm not even going to look. I don't even need to look. A mysterious drifter rides into this small town that's being taken. They're being taken advantage of, and and the town's pretty much been seized by this corrupt outlaw gang, right? And they pretty much say that they're going to take the town over and leave everyone for dead. Also, let's flash back. This same gang took out this town's sheriff. They whipped him. They whipped him to death. Fast flash forward, this mysterious drifter rides into town, Clint Eastwood, and agrees to help the town stand up against this gang and prevent them from taking over the town. So Clint Eastwood has them all paint. They paint the entire town red, and they rename it Hell. And Clint Eastwood says, "Welcome home, boys." And one by one, he takes them all out. At the end of the film, Clint Eastwood is riding away, and this little person, who's in the town, is working on a grave for the late sheriff that was whipped a year prior or two. And the little man says to Clint Eastwood, "I never got your name. I don't know who you are." And Clint Eastwood looks back at him and says, "Yeah, you do." And he rides away. And the little man looks down at the stone that he's making for the sheriff, and he smiles. And that's the end of the film. It's really good. It's a classic, like, small town Western film, but also it's like a classic, like, mysterious man and, like, a total, like, badass Western revenge story. Like, if you had to, like, in my opinion, like, if you had to, like, look up Western revenge, High Plains Drifter should be on that list. Classic. And also the fact that again, he a little bit, he kind of lets them get the upper hand. That's like a typical Clint Eastwood film. He's gonna let them think they have the upper hand, and then boom, he comes back, right? So I really enjoy that film too. The Magnificent Seven. I recently saw this. This has a star-studded cast. We're talking Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, Robert Vaughn. Uh, I want to say Dennis Hopper. A lot of star-studded cast for its time. It's regarded as one of the best Western films of all time. I don't think it is. My problem with the film is, like, obviously it's built at the time it was probably amazing. Like, if you went to see this in theaters or you watched it back in the day when they had it on TV, it resonated with people. It was a feel good story. They all have their own reason for joining up with each other to take out the enemy. My problem that I had is, despite the cast being star-studded, I felt like certain plots for the guys that wanted to, like, fight was kind of lacking, and I felt like the whole fact that they kind of allowed themselves to get captured, only they pulled the Clint Eastwood. They kind of allowed themselves to make it seem like they were going to get captured, like they'd given up, and they actually had given up, and they actually ended up losing some of their men. Like Robert Vaughn's character turned out to be a wuss, a coward, if you will, and they're of course led by Yul Brynner, and obviously in the end they sort of win, but they sort of don't because they lose men, and it's one of those, like, you win some, you lose some sort of deals. It's like a good balance between good and evil, I suppose. And I don't know. I didn't hate the film. I just didn't find it as magnificent, pun intended, as the title would suggest, and as people have also claimed it to be. I love this that it's a star-studded cast at the time, and for a western, it's great. It's solid. It's got a great plot, but I just found that the story is, like, I don't know. To me, it just didn't all come together. The next film I'm going to talk about is One Eyed Jacks, which stars Marlon Brando. That's all you need to know. How do I describe this? So, this was the first film that Marlon Brando had decided to direct. And It was in the 70s, and of course this was, I think, before The Godfather. Marlon Brando was known as a method actor, and he decided to direct and he starred in this film called One Eyed Jacks. And basically, he stars as this guy. I forgot his name. Let me look up his name. I don't need the. Oh, excuse me, it's 60s. It's 1961. So this was way before The Godfather. It also stars Karl Malden, if you know who that is. Guy with a giant nose. He plays Rio. Marlon Brandon plays a guy named Rio. Karl Malden plays Dad Longworth. And Pina Pellicer plays Louisa Longworth, his stepdaughter. So basically, what happens is Rio and Dad, which I will address the name and afterwards. But basically, Dad turns on Rio, leaves him for dead. A few years go by. Rio has not forgotten about what Dad did to him, so he plots revenge. So eventually, he comes back into town, and Rio tracks down Dad, who's now living at this nice resort. Not resort, but this nice why did I say resort? It was probably on my brain. Um, this nice estate, if you will. He's married, and he has a stepdaughter. And Marlon Brando walks in, and Dad sees him, and he gets his gun ready, and he walks outside, and he thinks he's ready to kill him. But no. Marlon Brando is smarter than that. And he goes, "Oh, I've come to see you. Like, how are you?" And he's like, "Oh, you're not here to..." No, no, no. That's in the past. And he proceeds to get revenge the slowest way possible by making it seem like, "Oh, that's water under the bridge. I forgot all about that." Meanwhile, he hasn't forgotten, and he's just biding his time. He has them over for dinner. They make up. He's making it seem that way. "Oh, how long are you staying?" I think he's like the mayor, the sheriff now, the character Dad is. And basically, Marlon Brando makes himself look like he's found his long lost friend, welcomes him back into town, welcomes him to the festival. All the while, Marlon Brando develops a relationship with Dad's stepdaughter, with his friend's stepdaughter. I'm gonna say Dad because that's weird. It makes it sound way weirder than it actually is. To the point where she actually talks about when she loses her virginity to him, and she says that she wants to marry him, and he says the same thing. Completely oblivious to why he's there, until eventually that's known, and they come to blows. And Rio does something in town to kind of make it seem like he tipped his hand and said, "I'm actually here to kill you." And the showdown is a little dragged out. It's a little ridiculous. But eventually he kills him. And of course now he's wanted. And of course the daughter is at this point like, "Oh, I don't care. Like, I'll go to Mexico. Like, he's like, I'm gonna flee to Mexico." And he goes, "Oh, did you ever love me?" "Of course I did." And he's like, "Oh, I'll find you. We'll be together." And he just kind of rides away, and the film ends. And that was in a nutshell. I would like this film if it weren't for three big, simple reasons. Number one, why is the guy named Dad? Have you ever, in the history of the world, heard of a man whose first name was Dad? It's just so weird. I've never heard that. Two, the movie is, let's see, how long is the movie? It's 141 minutes. So 60 and 60 is 120. So that's 2 hours and it's like 2 hours and 21 minutes. It's a that doesn't seem long, but I feel like it should be like an hour and 50 minutes, hour 30, hour 40 tops. It's dragged out. There are so many scenes in the movie that just don't need to happen. They're kind of like, you can tell Marlon Brando directed for the first time with this film because it's very sporadic, very erratic, very spotty at times. The third reason I don't like it is because of the weird random love interest. Why? Is that because Marlon Brando was known for being like the the suave debonair, um, leather jacket wearing love interest that he played in the 50s in A Streetcar Named Desire, in other films, and Bridge Over the Waterfront? Is that why he threw in the romance? Because he was known for it? Because I gotta tell you, the romance in this is just so weird and unnecessary. I don't know what that is, but it's kind of distracting. I'm gonna try to talk over it. You probably can't hear it, but yeah, it's there. Uh it's so weird. It's like I'm gonna get back at this guy for trying to kill me and leave me for dead by developing a relationship with his stepdaughter. I suppose it would be weirder if it was his actual daughter. Absolutely. But it's still weird. Like, why is it in there? And also, like, the way they talk to each other, the way that at one point Marlon Brando's just kind of like talking to her, like, oh, you mean nothing to me. It's just like, ah, it's like he's trying to go back to the glory days of the 50s when he was in films and play that badass rebel when he's talking to girls. But it's like, this is a Western, dude. Like, you don't need to act like that or do that. And yeah, what's crazy is the girl that played in the film, she ended up committing suicide like 5 years later. How crazy is that? So yeah, the love interest kind of just threw me. It's good for a western. You want to know how good this movie did in the box office? It bombed. It took 6 million to make. It made 4.3 million, so it lost $2 million. Yeah. So yeah, I wasn't a fan of One Eye Jacks. I had it on my list, and Pluto had it on one time. So I was like, let me watch this. It's got Marlon Brando. It's got to be good. It was not good. Very contrived, as I like to say. Next, we're going to go to the Missouri Breaks. We're going to go back to back Clint Eastwood, and we're going to go back to back Marlon Brando. This film, not as bad. I would argue whether or not it's good. So basically, Marlon Brando plays a like weird, wacky, off the wall bounty hunter who's hired to kill this guy played by Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson kind of comes in, and basically this town hangs. They hang this guy. The guy was a part of Jack Nicholson's crew. Jack Nicholson comes back into town and kind of plays the good guy, like, "Hey, I'm just settling down here in your town." Uh, all the while, he tries to coerce the woman, the sheriff's daughter. Again, another one kind of coerce a daughter. Uh, and at first, she doesn't like him. She doesn't want him, but then she does. Like he courts her, she rejects him, and then she courts him, and he rejects her, and then they end up screwing like right there out in the open in the wilderness or whatever, in the woods, and the sheriff gets wind of it, and he also gets wind of the fact that Jack Nicholson isn't who he says he is, and the real motive of him being in town is he wants revenge on the sheriff killing his friend. All the while, he hires Marlon Brando's character as the bounty hunter, and Jack Nicholson and Marlon Brando cross paths a couple times, but they speak to each other when in reality they could both put a bullet in each other either time. This is what kind of throws me about the film. It's like they're playing mind games, which of course I suppose happened back in those days sometimes. But Marlon Brando's kind of playing his hand here. This is what makes his character completely off the wall and erratic. If you Google this movie and you look up what critics say about Marlon Brando's character, they'll say all of them will agree that he's completely off the wall. I imagine this is why, because his character is given the idea of like, oh, I could easily kill Jack Nicholson, but I'm not really in it for the money. I'm in it for the satisfaction, and I don't think I really need to do it. And it's like, okay, but in the end, spoiler alert, Jack Nicholson chokes him in his sleep while he's camping out looking for him. And then at the end of this film, Jack Nicholson ends up killing the sheriff, and it's him and the daughter that are left, and it's pretty much like the end of One-Eyed Jacks. It's like, oh, I'll wait for you. And it's like, okay, but like, why is the movie ending like that? Like, both daughters in both films, their fathers die. And they're just like, oh, my dad died, but I still love you and I'll wait for you. And it's like, did this really happen in Western times? Like, oh my God. I like this film a lot more than One-Eyed Jacks. And it was definitely interesting to see Jack Nicholson playing a Western, but it's just the plot was very confusing at times. And the whole them playing mind games back and forth with each other kind of just went over my head at times. So, yeah. And then finally, I will end this with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, which is a freaking masterpiece, absolute classic. Of course, it stars the late great Paul Newman and Robert Redford, who only made 2 films together, which really bums me out because they did this and The Sting. The Sting is one of my favorite movies ever. And Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, of course, were real people. They're 2 outlaws. They're on the run. And at the time when they made this film, talk about happy-go-lucky, you know, like the music. They made them like fun-loving almost. And basically they play off of each other great. And they're robbing banks. And they get with this other gang to try to rob other banks. But pretty much the law catches up to them and they have to flee the country. So they go to Bolivia. And why Bolivia? That's mentioned in the film. I think he said because why not Bolivia? You know, like, and basically they want to rob the Bank of Bolivia or whatever. And word gets out that these 2 men are in town to rob the bank, and a whole entire force, military force, is there, and they're in this rundown abandoned house, and yeah, they go running out, guns a-blazing, and then the film ends. And you like to think, if you're like me, you like to think, oh, they survived. It's like, no, Justin, they didn't survive. That's why they cut the film short. But it's a classic film, you know. It's a classic Western. It doesn't really, I would say it's a contemporary Western. Like, it's not like a saddles, guns blazing type of Western. Not like the ones I've been talking about. But I would say it's a classic contemporary Western. Feel good, if you will. Where they're bad guys, but you know you root for them because they're kind of good guys at heart, I suppose, even though they're going after they're doing this for a bad cause. But yeah. So yeah, in a nutshell, That's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, which I've seen at least 5 times, if not more. So overall, Dollars Trilogy, 3 classic spaghetti westerns, all inspired my second book, A Bloody Bloody Mess in the Wild Wild West. The Magnificent Seven, I didn't think it was that magnificent. High Plains Drifter, very underrated western, in my opinion. Doesn't get talked about enough. Not that I go to western blogs and, stuff like that, groups. One-Eyed Jacks leaves a lot to be desired. The Missouri Breaks, just as much, I would say, leaves a lot to be desired, just like One-Eyed Jacks. And Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is an absolute freaking masterpiece, and it's a classic. And that has been my discussion on classic Western films. If you like this film, if you like my film, if you like my video talking about the films, be sure to hit subscribe below so that you can find out anytime that I go live. It would be much appreciated. I, of course, will be back soon for another video. What will it be on? I am not sure yet, so do stay tuned. At some point,